afternoon, students. This is Reema, your biology educator from V-Learning. As you know that V-Learning is an online educational platform where we strive to provide quality education for all. So to get all the benefits from our channel, do subscribe to it if you have not subscribed, and also share it with others so that someone will get benefit out of it. And don't forget to visit to our website, that is www.v-learning.in, where you will be getting all the pre-recorded videos, animated videos, PDF notes of all these chapters. So let's start today's session. So what we are going to learn today? In the previous class, we have learned about what? In the previous class, we have learned about your flower, right? And we are in the chapter that is your chapter number 5, which is your morphology of flowering plants. So what we have learned in flower, you have seen that flower is the reproductive part of the plant, right? And also we have learned about the different types of flower, that is your bisexual flower and unisexual flower, isn't it? So in today's class, we are going to learn about this fruit and seeds. We all love fruits, right? But how these fruits are formed, and what are the various types of fruits, and how the seeds are formed, what are the various types of seeds. So let us learn in today's session about the fruits and the seeds, and this is your part 4. So yes, before that, let us know about Androscium and Gynocium. So as we have already discussed about this, that flower has got 4 parts, that is your calyx, corolla, Androscium and Gynocium. So in the previous class, we have learned about in detail about the corolla and this calyx, right? But the formation of this fruit and seed depends upon what? Depends upon the fertilization process. And how does the fertilization takes place? Yes, it is with the help of your Androscium and Gynocium. So before going into the fruit and seed, let us see about what is this Androscium and Gynocium. As you already know that this Androscium is the male reproductive part of the flower, isn't it? So Androscium is composed of what? It is composed of your stamens, right? So as you know that the Androscium, it is composed of stamens, as you can see in this picture, right? So what you can see, this is what? This is your stamen. This is your stamen. So if I draw it like this, okay, this is the stamen. So this whole structure is called as the stamen. So what is this? This is your filament, okay? This is your filament. And what is this? This is your anther. So this is the anther, right? So when you look into the anther and the filament, how is the structure of the filament? The filament looks like a long, thin, slender structure, isn't it? So it is a long, slender structure. And when you look into the anther, how is the anther? Anther is a bilobed, right? So each anther, okay, let us start here. Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament, as I have already mentioned, and an anther. So you can see that a stamen consists of your filament and anther. Now, this anther is usually bilobed. So as you can see, this one, right? So this shows that the anther is what? This anther is your bilobed, okay? So bilobe means what? That is your 2 lobes, right? So inside this anther, what is present? Inside the anther, pollen grains are present. So each lobe of the anther has 2 chambers, that is the pollen sacs, okay? So each lobe of the anther has got what? Has got this pollen sacs. And this pollen grains are produced in the pollen sacs. Now what you can see this yellow things, right? What are this? These are your pollen grains. So where these pollen grains are present? These pollen grains are present where? In the pollen sac, right? So these pollen grains are present in the pollen sacs, all right? So a sterile stamen is called a staminode. Now, what do you mean by the staminode? Staminode means the sterile stamen which is not producing your pollen grains. So this staminode, it is not producing pollen grains. It does not produce any of the pollen grains, not producing pollen or pollen grains. So next, some more characteristics of Androscium are your, yes, the stamens may be united in one branch or one bundle. So see, so as you can see, stamen may be united in one branch. That means like this, okay, stamens, as you can see here in this picture of China rose, the stamen here is single, right? United. So this is what this is called as your monoadilphus. Okay, this is called as your monoadilphus. So when the stamen is united as a single branch in one branch or one bundle, we call it as what? We call it as your monoadilphus. Mono means what? Mono means one. All right, mono means one. So we see this type of arrangement of the stamens in case of your China rose and the rose. Now next one, when the stamen is arranged in two bundles. Okay, so when the stamen is arranged in two bundles, we call it as diadilphus. Now di means two. All right, di means two. So diadilphus. Where we see this, you see this in case of your pea flower. So as you see this pea flower, right? So in case of this pea flower, they have got what? They have got 5 petals, isn't it? So here it will be like this. The stamens will be arranged in 2 bundles. Okay, so diadilphus. All right, next is into more than 2 bundles. So when the stamens are arranged in more than 2 bundles, what we call that? Anything more than 2, we call it as poly. All right, polyadelphus. That is your polyadelphus. When we see this type of arrangement of stamens, we see this in case of your lemon, that is lemon flower, that is your citrus. Okay, so in case of you can see this is the picture of a lemon flower. So when you can see that the stamens are arranged, into many bundles, right? So this is known as what? This is known as your polyadelphus. So this is all about that, how the stamens are arranged. There are three types of arrangement of stamens. One is as single, we call it as monoadilphus. When the stamens are arranged into 2 bundles, we call it as diadilphus. And when the stamens are arranged in many, okay, many bundles or bunches, we call it as what? We call it as polyadelphus. Clear? So we see this type of arrangement in case of your citrus fruits. So there may be a variation in the length of filaments within a flower, as in case of your salvia and mustard. So some of the filament or some of the stamens, you may see what? You may see variation. So the length, it depends or it varies from flower to flower. As you can see in case of citrus, the stamen is very short, right? Where you can see in case of this China root, it is long, isn't it? So it varies from flower to flower. So yes, this is all about what? This is all about your male reproductive part, that is Androscium. Now let us learn about Gynocium. So which one is the Gynocium? That is the female reproductive part of the flower, right? So how it is? We call it as carpel or pistil, right? So it looks like this, isn't it? So a pistil has got, or a carpel has got how many parts? Pistil has got 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? That is your stigma, then style, and here I am writing ovary. Now this ovary is the largest part, okay, and it is at the base. So ovary, that is the basal part, and it is the largest one, which is at the base. So Gynocium is the female reproductive part of the flower, and it is made up of what? 1 or more carpels or pistil. Okay, we can call it as carpel or pistil. So a carpel consists of 3 parts, as I have shown. That is your stigma, that is the topmost part is called as the stigma. What happens in the stigma? In the stigma, the pollen grains comes and the germination takes place, right? So here the pollen grains falls in the stigma, and the germination takes place. So this is your what? This is your style. So from here the pollen tube, it comes and it releases the pollen grains in the egg or the ovary. So that's how the pollination takes place, or the pollen pistil, it interacts for the formation of your fruit or the seed. So the style, what happens, connects the ovary to the stigma. As I have shown that the style, this part, it connects the stigma and the ovary. So it helps in the release of your transfer of your male gamete, that is the pollen grains. So the stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface for the pollen grains. So as you have seen that this is the stigma, right? Where it is at the top portion, right? So as you can see, what it receives? It receives what? It receives the pollen grains. So it is receiving the pollen grains. Okay, so why it is receiving? Because the plant need to undergo this fertilization process. So the stigma, it receives the pollen grains. Okay, and what it releases with the help of the style to the pollen tube. This one is your pollen tube. It releases to the ovary, and here what happens? Here further formation of the embryo or the development of the embryo set takes place in the ovary. So yes, and each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to the flattened cushion like placenta. Okay, so each ovary, okay, it will bear one or more ovules which will be attached to the placenta. Next is what? Next, when more than one carpel is present. So when more than one carpel is present, then it may be free, as in case of lotus and rose, and are called apocarpus. Okay, so when more than one carpel or pistil is present and which may be free, as you can see in case of this lotus, it is called as your apocarpus. Clear? So it is called as apocarpus. So this can be divided, that is the arrangement of your carpel can be divided into two parts or two types. One is your apocarpus and the another is your syncarpus. So another is your syncarpus. So the arrangement of your carpel is divided into two parts. One is your apocarpus and the another is your syncarpus. So as you have seen that what happens in apocarpus, that means the carpels are free. Clear? So as in case of lotus, you can see this. And what happens in case of the syncarpus? The carpels are fused. As in case of your mustard and tomato flower, we see this type of arrangement, that is they are united, they are not free. Here what happens? The carpels are free. So here as you can see, this is the flower of tomato. So here you will see that the carpels are fused, okay, that is they are united. So when it is united or the carpels are fused, it is called as your syncarpus. So it is called as what? Syncarpus. So apocarpus and syncarpus. Clear? So after fertilization, what happens? After fertilization, the ovules develop into seed and the ovary, it matures into fruit. So which we have already learned also, right, in the previous chapter. So after fertilization, the ovary, it develops into your fruit, and the ovule, what happens? The ovule, it will form the seed. Clear? Okay. Yes. So as you can see, this picture clearly shows that how from a flower, so as you can see, these are the pollen grains. So see, when you dissect the pollen, you will see this type of structure, that is how the pollen sacs are arranged. And when the pollen and pistil, it interacts, it leads to the formation of an embryo, okay? and after the embryo matures, then what happens? You can see that the seed is being formed from the ovule, and this full your ovary will turn into your fruit. Okay, the ovary turns into fruit, and from this ovule we are getting this seed. Okay, and this full ovary will turn into your fruit. A fruit is nothing but it develops from a ripened ovary. So yes, next let us learn about placentation. As you have seen that the reproductive organ, that is the reproductive part, are this Androscium and Gynocium, and what are the different types of your stamens and the carpels. So now let us learn about placentation. Now what is this placentation? Placentation is nothing but the arrangement of what? Arrangement of ovules within the ovary. So have you ever seen this tomato? So take a tomato and cut it into two pieces. You will see the seeds, isn't it? Seeds inside the tomato. What are this? These are formed from the ovules. Okay, so how they are arranged in the tomato. So that is called placentation. That is how the ovules are arranged. Okay, how the ovules are arranged within the ovary. So the arrangement of the ovules within the ovary is called as your placentation. So as you have seen that in the inflorescence, we have learned about that arrangement of flower, isn't it? It's same only like that. That is the arrangement of ovules here within the ovary. And there are various types of placentation. There are mainly 5 types of placentation. So what are the various 5 types of placentation? First one is your marginal placentation. So first one is your marginal placentation. Second one is your axile. Then third one is your parental. Then fourth one is your basal, and last one is your central or free. So these are the 5 types of the arrangement of placenta. So next, what happens in marginal placentation? In marginal placentation, that is the ovules, as you have seen this pea, right? How the seeds are arranged. So see, in case of pea, you will see this type of arrangement, right? So in case of pea, you will see this ovules inside it. It is arranged at the margin, isn't it? So if this is a pea, you will see that how it is arranged. It is arranged exactly at the margin, isn't it? The ovules are arranged exactly at the margin. That is called as your marginal placentation. Now what happens in case of marginal placentation? The placenta forms a ridge along the ventral structure of the ovary, and the ovules are born on the ridge formation 2 rows as in P. So see, as in the 2 rows you can see here, right? And here the ovules are formed, isn't it? So that is your marginal placentation. Next type of placentation is what? Axile. So what happens in axile? The ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary. That is, the placentation is said to be your axile, and you see it in case of your China rose, tomato and lemon. As you can see in this picture, so you will see how the ovules are arranged, right? So in the tomato, you will see that the ovules are arranged exactly at the center, right? So that is what? That is your axile. So when you see the next type of arrangement, that is your parental presentation, the ovules develop on the inner walls of the ovary or into the peripheral part. So as you can see in this picture, the ovules are developing in the inner walls, right? inner walls of the ovary. So that is called as your parental placentation. Now next is what? Precentral. So ovules are developing at the center of the ovary. That is your precentral. And next, the last one is your basal placentation. That is, placenta develops at the base of the ovary, where we see in case of your marigold and the sunflower. So this type of arrangement of placenta is called as your basal placentation. So where does the placenta develops at the base of the ovary. This is your basal placentation. So these are the 5 types of the arrangement of your ovules inside the ovary. So you can see here as it is arranged in two rows, right? So it is arranged in 2 rows, and it is exactly at the margin also, isn't it? So it is arranged in a ridge in the 2 rows, and it is in the margin. We call it as marginal presentation. So next one is exile. It is arranged in the center. It is arranged and divided in by the, that is with the help of seta. Seta is nothing but the inner walls which separates the ovary. So see this how it is arranged, right? And next one is your precentral. That is how the ovules are arranged in the center. In the center, and this is at the base. The ovules are arranged at the base. That is your basal. So these are the various arrangement of your ovules inside the ovary. So far we have learned about your placentation, and we have seen that what are the various types of placentation. Is that clear? So now let us move into the next topic, that is your fruit. So what do you mean by a fruit? How can you define a fruit? Every day we eat different types of fruits, right? So how can you define a fruit? A fruit is nothing but, what is this? A fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plants. Okay, so it is nothing but it is a characteristic feature of your flowering plants. And what is this? It is the mature or the ripened ovary developed after fertilization. So as you know that the fruit, it develops from the ripened or the matured ovary, and the seed, it develops from the ovule. So the fruit is nothing. You can define fruit as a mature or a ripened ovary which is developed after your fertilization. And if a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, we call it as Parthenocarpic fruit. Now what do you mean by this Parthinocarpic fruit? Before that, let me tell you that there are 2 types of fruit. Fruit is classified into true fruit and false fruit. So we can classify the fruit into true fruit and false fruit. Now, what do you mean by this true fruit and false fruit? So as you have seen that in the flower there are different parts, isn't it? There are different floral appendages, that is your calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, right? So when the fruit is formed directly from the ovary and there is no attachment of the floral appendages, that is, in the true fruit, directly the fruit is being formed from the ripened ovary and there is no attachment of the floral appendages. So appendages like your calyx or the corolla is not attached. Okay, have you seen banana? Example of true fruit is your banana. Okay, so in the banana you will not see any of the floral appendages are attached. So it is directly formed from your ovary. All right, so next is what? Next is your false fruit. So you have seen strawberry, right? So you will see that the that is the sepals are attached to the fruit, right? So how it is? It will be like this, isn't it? Strawberry. So this fruit, that is the false fruit, is the fruit which is formed from the ovary and the floral appendages are attached to it, okay? That we call as your false fruit. So false fruits are the fruits where the floral appendages are attached, okay? Are attached. So this type of fruits are known as your false fruits. Example is your strawberry. So next, let us see what is this parthenocarpic fruit. This parthenocarpic fruits are the fruits which are formed from the vegetative part of the plant. Now we have studied, or you have studied about this vegetative propagation, isn't it? So you have seen that how the different parts of the flower can give rise to another plant, right? So that is what? That is one type of your asexual reproduction. So parthenocarpic fruits are the fruits which are formed without fertilization. They are formed by this vegetative propagation. You have seen that some of the fruits like your papaya, banana, they are seedless. Even the watermelon or the orange we will find nowadays. So these fruits are known as your parthenocarpic fruits. So these parthenocarpic fruits are basically what? These are basically what? Your seedless fruits, okay? They are your seedless fruits. And how they are formed? They are formed without fertilization. So they are formed without fertilization. Yes. So how they are formed? They are formed from the vegetative part of the plant. So in case of banana, how this banana is being formed? It is formed from the rhizome, which is the vegetative part of the banana plant. So and they are formed without fertilization. And this parthenocarpy, there are two types of parthenocarpy. One is the natural parthenocarpy and another is the artificial parthenocarpy. So what about this natural parthenocarpic? How this natural parthenocarpic fruits are formed? That is, it depends upon the environmental condition, okay? And what about this artificial parthenocarpy? Artificial parthenocarpy means these are the fruits which are obtained using some the growth hormones, okay? By inducing the growth hormones into the plants. That is the artificial parthenocarpic. That is artificial way of making the seedless fruits. So this is about your fruit, okay? And the fruit consists of what? The fruit consists of a wall or the pericarp and seeds. So this is important. What do you call the wall of the fruit? The wall of the fruit, if you see, this is a apple, okay? So the wall of the fruit, we call it as what? We call it as pericarp. So the wall of the fruit is known as your pericarp. All right, and the pericarp may be dry or fleshy. So in case of some fruits, the pericarp are dry. In case of your almonds, the pericarp is dry, right? Whereas in case of your mango, it will be fleshy. So again, this pericarp is thick and fleshy and is differentiated into three parts. That is your outer apicarp, the middle mesocarp, and the inner endocarp. So in case of your mango, this part, okay, so if this is a mango, inside the mango there will be a seed, right? So the hard part, that is your seed, we call it as your endocarp. So the pericarp is again divided into your three parts, that is your apicarp. Which one is the apicarp? The outer part is called as your apicarp, and this fleshy part which we eat, that is, which is the edible part, we call it as your mesocarp. That is your mesocarp. And the hard part part, that is your seed, we call it as your endocarp. So these are the three parts. Next, let us see, as you can see here in the picture, it shows that the epicarp, the mesocarp and the endocarp. So this is the seed. Now, in case of this coconut, okay, in mango and coconut, the fruit is also known as your drupe. So in case of this mango and coconut, the fruit is also known as your drupe. So what is this drupe? Drupe is nothing but the fruit which has got the thin outer covering and one seed. Okay, we call this type of fruit as your drupe. So next, they develop from the monocarpillary superior ovary. So in the last class we have learned about various arrangement of ovaries, right? So what happens in case of this superior ovaries? In case of your superior ovaries, the ovary is situated on the top, right? And all the floral parts are coming from the base, from the bottom, right? So this type of ovary which is located on the top and the floral parts are located below it, we call this type of ovary as superior ovary. So this type of ovary is known as your superior ovary. So what is this mono? Mono means one, right? So what is this monocarpillary superior ovary? Monocarpillary superior ovary means the ovary which has got one carpel, okay, and it is superior. This type of ovary is known as monocarpillary superior ovaries and are one seeded. So this type of fruits, they are having one seed, okay, as you can see in case of your palm also, then in case of mango, okay, in case of your coconut, they are having one seed. So in mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin apicarp, right? So the outer thin apicarp, the outer part is your apicarp, the fleshy middle edible part, we call it as your mesocarp, and the inner stony part, we call it as what? Endocarp, as you can see in the picture, right? So next is what? Next is in coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. So as in case of this coconut, you can see this mesocarp is having this thin thread-like structures, right? So it is fibrous in case of your mesocarp, in case of your, coconut. So next is what? Next, let us learn about your seed. Now, what do you mean by the seed? From where the seeds are developed? Seeds are developed from the ovules, as you have already learned, right? So, they are developed from the ovule. So, ovule lead to the formation of seed, and the number of the ovules may vary from one flower to another flower. So the ovules after fertilization develop into your seed, and seed is made up of seed coat and an embryo. So have you ever seen the gram seed or the pea, how it looks like? Okay, so it will look like this, right? And this is the middle portion, isn't it? So this portion is called as your seed coat. So acid is made up of your seed coat, and inside this, what? From the inside, the embryo will develop, which leads to the formation of what? Which leads to the formation of your radicle and pumil. This will lead to the formation of radicle. From the radicle, the roots will come, and from the pumil, the stem or the shoot will come out. So it has got two axes, that is embryo has got two axes, that is your radicle, right, and pumil. So as you can see, in case of your wheat, in case of maize, or it will be having two cotyledons, where we can see that is two cotyledon means that is seed can be divided into two types, that is having two leafy structure inside the seed coat. So as in case of gram and pea, we see this two cotyledon. So this is the definition definition of your seed. Now, when we talk about seed, there are two types of seed mainly. One is your dicotyledonous seed and another is your monocotyledonous seed. Now, by the name itself, di means what? Two, right? Di means two, that is having two cotyledon. Now, what is this cotyledon? Cotyledon is nothing but a leafy structure which is present inside the seed coat, that we call as your cotyledon. So the outer, that is, let us learn about this dicotyledonous seed. So that is having two cotyledon, right? So in case of your pea, in case of your pea seed, in case of your gram, we will see this type of seed, that is your dicotyledonous seed. So the outermost covering of a seed is called as the seed coat. So the seed coat has got two layers. So when we talk about the seed coat, it will be having two layers. One is your testa and another is your tegmen. So what is this testa? Testa is your outer layer. So testa is the outer layer of the seed and this tegmen is your inner layer of the seed. So our seed coat has got two layers, that is your testa and tegmen, and it has got what? It has got a structure that divides the two cotyledon. We call it as hilum. Okay, we call it as hilum. So as you can see here, this portion which divides the two cotyledon, we call it as hilum. All right, so this is your hilum. Hilum is the scar on the seed coat through which the developing seed were attached to the fruit. So this is the part which helps the seed to attach with the fruit. So above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. So here above the hilum will be a small pore. We call this small pore as your micropyle. Now what is this micropyle? So this micropyle helps in the transfer of your nutrition inside the seed. So this micropyle is a small pore which is present above the hilum. So what it does, this micropyle, it helps in the transfer of what? In the transfer of nutrition to the developing embryo inside the seed. So within the seed coat is the embryo consisting of an embryonal axis. So inside the seed coat, what is present inside the seed coat? Embryo is present, that is which is having that is the embryonal axis is present with two cotyledons, and the cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserved food material. So if we see inside it, so inside the seed, what is present? It is present. Let me take this yellow color. So if we look like this, inside the seed there will be presence of what? There will be presence of your embryonal axis. We can call it as embryo. All right, so here you will find the formation of your radicle and pumil, and this one is the outermost cover of the embryo. So let us see, at the two ends of the embryonal axis are present what? At the two ends are present your radicle and the pumil. So when you look into this seed, and inside the seed this embryonal axis is present. So here you can see that it is divided into two parts, that is it is having two cotyledon. So where we can see that is the pumil and the radicle. So as I have said, this is hilum, right? This structure is called as your hilum. This is your hilum, right? Which divides and which helps in the connection of your connection of the seed with the fruit. And this is your micropyle. This small hole or pores near the hilum is called as your micropyle. So in some seeds such as castor, the endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization and it is a food storing tissue. So in some of the seeds, the endosperm, so what is the function of this endosperm? The endosperm is responsible for providing nutrition to the developing seed. So in some of the seed, the endosperm is formed as a result of your double fertilization. So we have talked about double fertilization in your chapter number 3. What happens in double fertilization? In double fertilization, the 3 pollen grains it fuse, right? One of the pollen grain it fuse with the egg, isn't it? And other pollen grains it comes and fuse with the that is your pollen mature pollen sac, right? So in the plants such as bean and gram, the pea and the endosperm is not present in mature seed, and such seeds are called as non-endospermous seeds. So in case of some plants that is your beans and the gram, the endosperm is not present. So in that case, the cotyledon is providing nutrition to the endosperm, and such type of seeds are known as your non-endospermic seeds. So basically the seeds also can be divided into 2 types. So the seeds also can be divided into 2 types. So what are the 2 types? One is your endospermic seed, another is your non-endospermic seeds. Next, let us move into the structure of your monocotyledonous seed. So in case of monocotyledonous seed, the endosperm, yes, the endospermic, but they are endospermic, but some, as in case of orchids, are non-endospermic. So most of the seeds they are endospermic, but some are non-endospermic. In seeds of the cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with a fruit wall. So some of the seeds, like in case of your cereals, that is your maize, the seed coat it fused with your fruit wall, and the endosperm is bulky and stores food. So what is the function of your endosperm? That is, it is responsible for providing nutrition and storage of food. And the outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer which is called as alveolar layer. Okay, so this layer which is called as your alveolar layer. So next, let us see the embryo is small and situated in a group at one end of the endosperm. So as you can see in this picture, so this layer of, that is the outermost layer, it is known as the alveolar layer, and this is your endosperm, and it is again divided. So this layer is known as your scutellum, and this portion where the pumil divides, and it is covered by your coleoptile, and here as you can see this is the radicle, it is covered with a covering that is called colohoryza. So yes, so it consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as the scutellum and a short axis with a pumil and a radicle. So it consists of what? It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon and one short axis with a pumil. So as you can see in this picture, it consists of this part is your large cotyledon and this part is your large cotyledon, right? And this part is what? This part is your short axis, isn't it? So here you can see in this short axis, it consists of your pumil and the radicle. So this is how the arrangement of the embryo is, the endosperm in case of your monocotyledonous seed. So the pumil and the radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called as the coleoptile and colohoryza respectively. So the pumil is enclosed with the help of your sheath. As you can see, this pumil is enclosed with the help of a sheath, that is a covering which is called as your coleoptile, right? So this is your coleoptile, and here the radicle, it is enclosed with the help of a sheath that is called as your colorize. So this is how the arrangement is done in case of your monocotyledonous seed. So as you can see, this is the endosperm of the seed and this is the embryo. Yes, next let us move into the floral formula, which is the last topic of this chapter. So what do you mean by this formula? We use different types of formula in your physics or in maths, right? But in case of flowers also, we can classify the flowers with the help of a formula. Okay, for flowers also there is a floral formula. So depending on the number of the leaves, depending on the arrangement of the leaves, then the number of your sepals, okay, and number of your carpels, then whether bract is present or not, then whether this flower is bisexual or unisexual. So we can give them a various symbol. Okay, floral formula is nothing but what? It is the notation for representing, the structure of particular type of flowers. For example, in case of what? In case of male, we use this type of symbol, isn't it? So in case of female, we use this type of symbol. So what it represents? It represents male and it represents female. So when we talk about bisexual flower, we can write it as like this. That is a flower in which both the male and the female reproductive part is present, right? So this is nothing but this is a notation, okay, by which we can represent, okay, in the form of a formula. So such notations use numbers, letters and various symbols to convey significant information in a compact form. So this type of notation, what it uses? It uses various numbers, it uses various letters and also what? And also various symbols to convey the significant information in a compact form. So let's see the various floral formula. So we can represent this, that is the floral formula is represented by various symbols or some symbols. So these symbols, that is in case of your brackets, that is we have seen that the flowers can be divided or can be identified, that is whether the bracts are present or absent. So when the bracts are present in a flower, we call it as bracteates, right? So we can write as BR, okay, for bracteates. Then calyx, for calyx it is represented as K, all right. Then for corolla we write as C, it is a symbol for corolla. Then perianth, perianth means what? When the calyx and the corolla is fused, isn't it? That is represented as P, and Androscium as A, Gynocium as G, and superior ovary. Superior ovary means when the ovary is on the top and other floral parts is arising from the base, right? So that is represented as G, and under G you put a dash, and when the ovary is inferior, that is represented as like this symbol with the help of this symbol. And you know that flowers can be divided into two types based on the symmetry. One is your actinomorphic flower, another is your zygomorphic flower. So what happens in case of your actinomorphic flower? That means it can be divided in any radius, right? So if we divide it, it will pass through radius. But in case of zygomorphic, what happens? It can be bilaterally, right? We can divide the flower into two equal halves. So this is actinomorphic symbol, and this is your zygomorphic. That is, we represent it with that is this symbol, that is shows percentage also, right? That is zygomorphic nature of flowers. So these are the various symbols. So as you can see, a floral formula. Now we have a floral diagram also. So we can represent the various parts of the flower in the form of a diagram too. So that we call as your floral diagram. So what is this? A floral diagram provides information about how the various parts are arranged. That is the number of parts of flower, their arrangement, and the relation they have with one another. So what is this floral diagram? It is nothing but it shows that how the various parts are arranged in a flower, how they are related to one another, right? And the relation and their arrangement, right? So the position of the mother axis with respect to the flower is represented by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. So as you can see, this is a floral diagram, right? So which one is the mother axis? This is your mother axis. So the position of the mother axis is represented with the help of your dot on the top of this floral parts. So on the top of the floral diagram, which shows the various parts, right? So the calyx, corolla, and androecium and gynoecium are drawn in successive folds, calyx being the outermost and gynoecium being in the center. So if we see the flower, it is exactly like this, right? We can form like this. This is your what? This is your gynoecium, isn't it? So gynoecium will be in the center, right? So here we can see what the calyx is on the outermost. So calyx is represented with the help of symbol K. So it is in the outermost, right? So the calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium is at the center. So look at this floral diagram. What you can see, this gynoecium is placed in the center. So near this gynoecium, what is present? This androecium is present, right? So androecium and this are the petals. These are the petals or the corolla. The arrangement, as you have studied how the petals and the sepals are arranged, we call it as estivation, right? So you can see how the corolla will be arranged, and this is the outermost part is your calyx, and at center we see your gynoecium. So next let us learn about some of the important families of the flowering plant. So in case of this Fabaceae, in case of this Fabaceae families of the flowering plants, where in this Fabaceae family, what will come? Your leguminous, okay? That is, it was a subfamily of your Leguminosae, okay? Here, the climbers, that is your pea, watermelon, all these things, all the flowering plants will come under this Fabaceae family. This family was earlier called as your Papilionoidea, okay? This was earlier called as your Papilionoidea, and it belongs to a subfamily of your Leguminosae, okay? It belongs to the subfamily of Leguminosae. Now let us see some of the vegetative characteristics. What are the various vegetative characteristics? The trees, shrubs, herbs, root with root noodles. So this type of the plants, they will be having what? They will be having the root noodles and the stem. However, the stem, as you have seen in case of your pea, they are always climbers, right? So their stem is either erect or they are climbers. So the leaves, how the leaves are arranged in those families? The leaves are arranged pinnately, compound, or simple. So in case of them, the leaves are pinnately, compound, or simple, and the leaf base, pulvinate, stipulate, and that is, they have got leaf base which is pulvinate, right, and stipulate. So venation is, they are showing this reticulate venation. So as you have seen that in case of leaves, this type of arrangement is known as your reticulate venation, right? So this is nothing but how the various arrangement of the floral parts parts are present in a flower, that we call as your floral, that we can represent in the form of your floral diagram, and we can write as a floral formula using the various symbols. So what are the various floral characteristics of this Fabaceae family? Let us learn. So inflorescence, they show which type of inflorescence? That is your racemose. You know that there are two types of inflorescence. One is your racemose, the other is your cymose, right? So they show this racemose, that is the flowers are continuously growing on the tip. Then flowers are basically bisexual and zygomorphic, that is they show what? They show that is they show bilateral symmetry, right? They can be divided into half. So that is bilateral symmetry. Next, the calyx or the sepals, they have how many sepals? In case of P, we have got this 5 sepals, okay, and they are gamosepalous. Gamosepalous means what? The sepals are united. As you know that there are two types of sepals. One is your gamosepalous and another is your polysepalous. Gamo means the sepals are united, and core, that is how is the aestivation? The aestivation is your velvet or imbricate. What is this aestivation? As you have seen that how the sepals and petals are arranged. And corolla, they have got 5 petals and polypetalous, and they are consisting of a superior, a standard 2 lateral wings and 2 anterior ones forming a keel. Okay, so this is all about what? This is all about the floral parts. And aestivation, they show maxillary aestivation. Then androecium, they are diadelphous, that is they are forming 2 stamens, right? Di means 2. So next is anther is dithecus, that is bilobed. Gynocium, that is ovary, will be superior in this type of flowering plants, and they are monocarpellary. Then they have got many ovules, and style is your single, and fruit is legume, seed is one to many or non-endospermic. Floral formula, this is very important. So as you have seen that in case of zygomorphic, we use this formula, this symbol, right? So they are zygomorphic, so we are writing this. Calyx, right? Calyx, they have got what? They have got 5 calyx, so we are writing here 5. Corolla, right? C, isn't it? So we are writing here corolla, how many? That is your 5. Then androecium, we are writing here A as androecium. They have got what? They have got 10, that is 9 plus 1. And this is for what? This is for your superior ovary. Okay, so under the G we are putting 1 dash, right? So they have got superior, and 1 means what? 1 means monocarpellary, isn't it? So this is the floral formula. By this way, we can represent the various arrangement of the flower. So in your textbook, you will be having another 2 family. So you can go through it and you can find out. So what is the importance of this? That is used in the form of your pulses like your gram, then your ahar, then amug, then soybean. All these are coming under this Fabaceae family, and they are also edible in the form of edible oil like your soybean, or in the form of fibers, okay, or in the form of ornamental plants we can use. Next, in your textbook, you will see this picture which clearly shows that the various parts of your pea, all right, of your pea. So see, this is the flower where you see 5 petals. This shows your reticulate venation, isn't it? How the leaves are arranged. And here you can see this type of aestivation, right? So this is all about the what? This is all about your family of Fabaceae. Next, in your book, you will be having this also, right? This is Solanaceae. This is another family. So try to find out the floral formula. So if you see this picture from there, you can identify and you can write down the floral formula in the form of this right? So what this represents, that is actinomorphic. Then what this represents, that is bisexual flower. Then this is K for calyx, right? 5 calyx. Then corolla, 5, androecium. Then this represents what? Superior, right? So this is how we can write down the floral formula. So next, another, you will be having this liliaceae, okay? Here the onion will come. So here you will find this bract in onion, which is represented as BR. So you can write down the formula as BR. Then this represents your actinomorphic flower, right? So I can find this perianth. Here you will find the perianth, that means your calyx and the corolla will be fused, all right? So this is androecium, and here you will find the gynoecium. So this is how the arrangement of your this various floral parts, and this is your floral diagram. So this is also important for your examination. So this is all about the floral formula and the floral diagram, what we have covered so far. So by this we have completed your chapter number 5. So in this chapter today we have learned about what? Today we have learned about fruits, seeds, and also at last we have seen the floral formula. So this is all about today's session. So if you find this useful, do like it and also share it with others. So in the next class I will be starting with chapter number 6. So do listen to all the classes and can visit to our website where you will be getting all the PDF notes of this topic. So visit to our website at www.v-learning.in where you will be getting all the PDF notes of today's lesson and all the previous topics too. So we are done with today's session. Be connected with Vista's learning. I will meet you in my next class. So till then, take care and bye-bye.